week 15 of the fantasy basketball season. And here's a few forwards I would drop off my roster this week. The first guy, Amir Coffey of the Los Angeles Clippers. He's had a couple good weeks over the last few weeks, but now over the last few games here, his production's gone down, and he really hasn't been a fantasy asset, and owners have actually dropped him in 10% of fantasy leagues in this time span. Points a game, 3 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 1.2 threes a game, and 45% from the field. So the last couple weeks here, the numbers have gone up, 11.6 points a game, 3.7 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 1.3 steals, 2 threes a game, and 48% from the field. So pretty decent numbers, but he's just been inconsistent as well as Coffey right now as well to hold him on 10 and 12 team league rosters, in my opinion. The last few games for him, January 19th at the Nuggets, 8 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 threes, 50% from the field. January 21st at Philly, 12 points, 3 rebounds, 2 threes, 40% from the field. And then January 23rd versus the Knicks, he was a non-factor, 2 points, an assist, and 33% from the field. So right here, consistency has been the problem. I know the playing times have been pretty good for Coffey, especially with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George out without really knowing a timetable. But right now, he's been inconsistent, and this week there's been better options on the waiver wire to get. So I would drop Coffey this week. If he gets hot again, then you go out there and pick him up. But like I mentioned, 10% of leagues, he's been dropped over the last few days. The second forward's Brandon Clark of the Memphis Grizzlies. And Clark, he's had a couple decent weeks, and now he's come back down a little here, and he's banged up as well with a back injury, which is always not a good sign here for basketball players with that back injury, where you can miss a lot of time, and it's even ended careers in the past if you have a bad enough back. But anyway, here for Clark on the season, 9.8 points a game, 5.1 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 1.1 blocks, and 65% from the field, which is very good. And the last couple weeks here, numbers have still been pretty decent, though. 12 points a game, 5.7 rebounds, 1.2 assists, 1.7 blocks, and 66% from the field. But he's another guy that's not going to be great each and every game here is Clark. He's going to have some weeks where he has great weeks, and then some weeks where he puts up dud performances. So now with a couple mediocre games under his belt and this back injury and his playing time only being 20, 25 minutes a game, I think he's a play you could steer away from this week. He could definitely pick things up and get hot once again as a good pickup for the week. But right now, I would drop him. The last few games, January 17th versus the Bulls, 15.7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 87% from the field. January 19th at the Bucks, 14 points, 4 rebounds, an assist, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 66% from the field. And January 21st at Denver, 6 points, 5 boards, and assists, 3 blocks, and 50% from the field. So right here, he's had some intriguing lines. He's been a factor, but fantasy owners with this back injury and his playing time still not up there at 30-plus minutes. They've dropped him in 5% of fantasy leagues, and this week I will. But if he gets going once again, you go right out there and get him because he's available right now in 61% of fantasy leagues. And the third and final forward I would drop this week is Jonathan Kuminga of the Golden State Warriors. So Kuminga, he was having a good stretch of games here, but the last few games here, he's come back down to earth, this Kuminga, and he really hasn't done anything worthy to keep on your fantasy roster, but he definitely could get it going once again. But like I mentioned, the Warriors, they've gotten some players back over the last few weeks here. We've seen Klay Thompson return. Otto Porter, he's been back as well. And Draymond Green, he could be back soon as well for this team, where Kuminga's really not going to have a role. So right here, he's been struggling over the last few games. He was a hot pickup for a week or two, like I mentioned, but he's been dropped in 12% of leagues on the season, 6.3 points a game, 2.3 rebounds, and 47% from the field. The last couple weeks, the numbers definitely went up, 11.9 points a game, 5 rebounds, 1.3 assists, a 3, and 46% from the field. But right now, he's not scoring the basketball well. His playing time's definitely taken a hit, and that's obviously not a good sign for fantasy owners and a guy who's going to be a big part of the Warrior rotation unless injuries happen. So the last few games here for Kuminga, January 20th versus the Pacers, 5 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists in that ball game, 0% from the field, all his points coming from the foul line. January 21st versus Houston, 7 points, 2 boards, a 3, 33% from the field. And then January 23rd, a non-factor versus Utah, only 8 minutes of play, and he only had an assist in that game. So right now, he's a safe guy to cut this week. But if he gets going once again and gets playing time, he's a guy you could revisit and pick up. But that's a few forwards I would drop here for Week 15 of the fantasy basketball season.